Hello, Sportsman. Can you believe that July is here already? I mean, the summer is already slipping by way too fast. On the 17th and 18th of this month, we're holding the 17th Outdoor Fair. This event features people you've seen on this TV show over the years, including Bill Yoder, who was gored by a pet deer nearly 2 years ago. His story is coming up. And Bob Steiner, who trains retrievers with concept ponds. That story coming up too. Stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost with a show for the Practical Sportsman.
The velvet business.
Last summer, we introduced you folks to Bill Yoder and his live North American big game shows. Bill raises white-tailed deer, mule deer, and other big game animals that he keeps in large pens next to his home in the woods near Clarksville. Now, Bill is one of the few people who makes a living, or at least part of a living, by raising and displaying big game animals. Bill has been at many outdoor events, including our outdoor fair last July, and he'll be back again this July in Brighton. You may have seen him at the Anderson Archery Clinic or maybe even at the Ionia Free Fair. The animals that Bill takes on tour are not animals that have been taken from the wild. These are animals that Bill raises from babies, and they come from private deer herds, many of them from his own deer. The only reason Bill's animals are not wild in their behavior is because he's around them from the time they're born. The fawns are bottle fed, and they aren't afraid of Bill, but not all of his fawns can go on the road with him. Many of the deer, even if they've been bottle fed, are too hyper around crowds. Some of the deer can handle crowds, and those are the deer that Bill takes on the road. Now, you may think that these deer are cute and would be fun to have as a pet. Well, as cartoon characters like Bambi, deer are always docile. But even the most tame deer can go out of control during their mating season in the fall. That's what happened 1 year ago when Bill tried to load a trophy buck onto a trailer the day after Thanksgiving. Now, he'll tell us that story in a minute. But first, let's do a flashback to July when Bill was herding a big buck out of its pen to take to a show.
Come here, buddy. Come here. Come on. Come on.
Most of Bill's shows are in the spring and summer when the bucks are in the velvet, and they're very docile at this time of year. This is exactly what Bill was trying to do on November 24th, 1997, when the buck did not cooperate.
Come on, buddy. Come on. You're all right. You're okay. Come on. Getting a snack on the way.
Herding a tame whitetail buck from its pen to a trailer is not an easy task in the summertime, but it's as easy as it gets. Bill has to be cautious and reassure the buck because if it panics, Bill could get hurt.
He's still got 2 months of growing yet to do, so he's going to be 10 or maybe more.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he's got a lot of growing to go. Come on, buddy. Come on. Oh, shut that behind Matt. Come on, get up there. Attaboy.
Bill can turn his back on Buddy in the summer when the buck's antlers are in the velvet, but at this time of year, in November, just being near a whitetail buck can be extremely dangerous.
You're okay. You gotta put this board in there, Matt.
Oh, okay.
You're okay. I haven't put it in here when he's been in here though, so.
What does that do?
It keeps him so you don't chew my wires up.
Oh.
So I got lights and brakes.
So it's happened before then?
Yeah. They still like to chew on things. There. Stay there.
That's it?
Yep, that's all there is to it. As long as they don't jump out.
What you just saw was
Like
a
that.
flawless loading of a big buck onto Bill Yoder's fifth-wheel trailer. Now, during the summer, Bill has never had a problem loading his animals for the shows. The fifth-wheel trailer carries 3 or 4 big bucks and usually a fawn or two to various locations in Michigan and around the Midwest. Now, the front of the fifth wheel has sleeping quarters where Bill can cook and stay when he's on the road with his animals. On November 24th, 1997, Bill started loading his bucks onto this trailer when one of the big boys with a huge polished rack decided he didn't want to go to a show with Bill. The buck that is in this pen, his name is Reese. He was born 5/30/94, so a 4-year-old buck. This buck is not a normal buck in a number of ways. I mean, not normal in its temperament, not normal in what it did to its keeper.
And I'm not normal to live through it, is what happened. I caught him on a bad day. It was the day after Thanksgiving, and there's always wild deer up around here, and they got him all riled up. And what I did, I come and opened this door. I was going to a show, and he was standing up there on the hill. I looked down. I looked that way and opened the door, and he hit the gate right here and knocked me down. And then he started goring me all the way down through here.
These are the antlers?
These are the antlers that he had.
Now, I might explain that this is not his skull, although Bill may have wanted to do that
Right.
to this deer. This is a fake skull here that's put on, but these are the shed antlers that he gored you with.
Right. I can match up the holes in my legs with these antlers.
Well, let's do that just for...
Okay, I was laying on the ground, and these antlers tines right here went in there and right there because I was curled up. So this one went clear through my leg and come out here. And this clear through. And this one went clear through my calf. He carried me, he picked me up and carried me down this alley and back on his head. And I weighed 200 pounds. It went clear through and
just with those two
tines stuck in my leg. He carried me down there and brought me back and then just kept working me over. He went clear through this leg on this side. You can see all the pink spots.
Got one here, one here,
There's a lot of scrapes.
So he just...
I tried to stay in a ball, and he just kept goring me, and my bottom is full of holes. And they up taking all my...
You mean, hold it, your rear end?
Yes.
He got you laid on your stomach?
Well, no, I stayed on a ball, but he'd roll me over and get me then in the rear end.
Oh, man.
And that went real deep into my cavity where they had to clean all that out, so I have nothing inside of me. I have a colostomy now.
A colostomy bag right there?
Right there. And
holy cow, this is not the best looking navel I've ever seen.
No, this looks better than it did.
Now, is this from him or surgery?
It's part of it and surgery. This is from surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
I had trouble with my colon to begin with, and then he really messed it up, so they had to clean everything out. They thought someday I may reattaching me, but they can't anymore. I'll have this for the rest of my life.
Wow. Gored by a pet deer. And here he is.
Yep, here he is.
Look at
He's going to be a heavy
size of the base of those velvety antlers. My golly.
See, now his neck is down where it should be.
He's out of rut.
Yep.
So he's friendly right now.
Yep.
Now this is the deer that caused you to be in the hospital how long?
3.5 months altogether.
In the hospital?
Yes.
Did they ever think that you weren't going to make it?
Well, I didn't think I was going to make it the first day, but they thought I'd just have a lot of problems, which I do yet. I still have one wound that hasn't healed up.
And this deer right now, all things are forgotten, huh?
Yeah. We're buddies again.
Well, what is the lesson from this?
The lesson, I'm not going to do any shows during the rut, is what I learned. And or else have more help to load what intimidates him a little more. Because he's not afraid of me, so he'd come at me.
This is what he had on his head.
Last year when he got me.
Last year like that, and right through this door,
yes,
you curled up in a ball, and he started working you with the antlers.
He just worked me over. My friends come over while I was in the emergency room, tried to get him back in here, and he was throwing that gate around like it was nothing. You can see all the paint's gone, where he rubbed all that off. He was picking that up and throwing it around like nothing.
Well, how did this end? I mean, what stopped it?
I don't know. I think because he thought I was dead, or I thought I was dead. I kind of gave up because I was bleeding so bad. I think he went down and fought with Neil, and then I crawled out. I don't really remember doing it, but all I know is that somehow I called 911.
So nobody was home at the time?
Nobody was home. I was all by myself. And I tried yelling, but he hit me so hard the first time, knocked the wind on me. So my neighbors were hunting back here. They heard a commotion, but these bucks they fight all the time. So they just figured they was fighting each other.
And this was when?
The day after Thanksgiving.
Wow.
They're not
And that's why the DNR wants to confiscate pet deer that have been turned loose, that have their antlers, that are out. Sometimes they go to bus stops where kids
right.
are.
They're not afraid. They'll come. They might hurt somebody. People say, "Well, why don't you turn them loose?" I said, "No, because in the dark, some bow hunter will get gored or killed, or kids. You know, they don't understand that because they're not afraid of you."
And this reaction wasn't one against a person,
No,
particularly.
no.
He would
It's
have done
just
that with
his
another
cycle,
buck.
right? Yeah, it's just that time of the year where he wanted to fight or breed or something, and I happened to be in the way.
So that was November 24th of last year.
Yeah,
You got out of the hospital not long ago.
not long. I've been in and out. I'd come home a while, then I'd go back in. And right now I had all so much nerve damage, I can't feel anything in my legs
Is that right?
or in my rear either.
Did you ever at any time hate this deer or
No.
hate your deer or say, I'm done with this?
No, they come down at the hospital when I was in emergency yet and ask, what do you know, destroy him or something? And I said, no, it's not his fault, which it wasn't. You just can't, if it's a bear or whatever, even a cow will kill you, you know, the wrong time of the year, you know. So it just doesn't matter. You just got to respect them certain times.
So which tines were they?
It was these right here. Yeah.
These two.
Because he had his head right against my leg here and them tines sticking through, and I was trying to talk to him, you know, and his head was right there. And and I'm curled up, and I couldn't get on my feet because he had me stuck, you know.
Wow.
They said, why? Everybody said, why didn't you grab a hold of him? Jeez, when you got something going nuts on you and you don't even get off the ground, there's no way you can.
How much did he weigh at the time?
He was about, I'd say he was 275, 280.
So he had 80 pounds on you?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's the story of Reese, the tame buck. These antlers just about
Killed me.
bought the farm for Bill Yoder. And here he is, 7, 8 months later, as if nothing happened.
Just like a kitten.
The lesson is, though, don't trust wild animals.
Don't trust them. Even in the wild, you get one, you know, that getting cornered or something's wrong, you got to watch it.
I guess. Well, I'm glad you're with us
So am I.
and sharing the deer and the deer stories with
They wouldn't
people.
let me go because I owe too much money at the bank, so they kept me alive.
Well, I guess I'm going to live forever.
Yeah.
As a postscript, Bill Yoder isn't really out of the woods yet on that injury. Some of his wounds have not yet healed up. He has to go to the hospital every few months to deal with infections that are still plaguing him. Bill Yoder will be at the outdoor fair with his display of live trophy deer and an elk and at least one little fawn. You can talk with Bill about his experiences raising deer at the fair. Now, Bill's live big game exhibit will be set up near Puppy Alley. That's where the public is invited to bring sporting dog puppies to sell. Quite a few people leave the outdoor fair with one more family member than they had when they came. Contact us if you'd like to reserve a spot to sell puppies. If you're an archer, make sure you bring your bow so you can shoot the novelty shoots. The Livingston archers always have the bionic targets, the steel ones you have to shoot through to win. They have moving targets, archery ranges for the kids. Of course, bows are available for the kids' use at the fair. There's a 30-target 3D course that winds through the woods. Several hundred archers will go through that course during the weekend. These events are fun and a good way to practice for the upcoming hunting season. Now, one event that's not designed for practice, it's just for fun, is Old Grizz. The target that's 125, maybe 150 yards away. Long distance shooting for prizes is fun to try, fun to watch. Now, especially fun to watch are the shooting shows with Harry Reinfelder and his machine guns and Dominic Troya with his muzzle-loading cannon. These shows are designed for spectators and will take place at 11, 1, and 3 p.m. on Saturday, 11 and 1 on Sunday. Now, on the alternate hours, Harry Reinfelder will perform some shotgun shooting tricks. That's noon, 2, and 4 on Saturday and noon and 2 on Sunday. We have a number of presentations planned. We don't have a schedule set yet, but here's the list that will be appearing. Kevin Cray from Hogs Limited will give the details of the Mitch Rompola story with pictures, and he'll answer all questions. That'll be interesting. Fred and Greg Abbas will not only talk about deer and turkey calling, but they're close friends with Mitch Rompola as well. Jay Chase, the president of the Metro Deer Management Base, will talk about the Metro Park deer dilemma and give the latest details. Lyle Karp has an excellent presentation on Lyme disease and the new vaccine, Limerix. That's an important subject to Sportsman. The Carp Anglers Group will present a new perspective on carp fishing. Jason Stewart from Marbles will talk about knife making and demonstrate knife care, sharpening, and collecting. Now, I will do a presentation on Michigan's CCW law, where it's at and why. And we have several dog training demonstrations, including Bob and Alice Steiner, who have a complete retriever training facility at their home in Munich.
Alice and I have invested a considerable amount here in getting these concept ponds dug, which are behind us. And without concept ponds, it's very difficult to teach a retriever proper water entries, water exits, how to handle different kinds of situations that they encounter when you're hunting. And so for that reason, we have a lot of points, islands, peninsulas, and areas that we can train the dogs to go over, past.
Is that why you call that a concept pond? What's concept pond mean?
Concept is exactly that. They're learning the concept of going past a point, over a peninsula or a point,
They're
through
learning to go straight while they're doing all of this.
through slots. They learn, as you'll see when we get an overhead view, there are 3 fingers of land and water, and they will go across those in varying degrees of difficulty. Starting out with youngsters, we may only go from the land on one side to a short land on the other. And the more advanced dogs will have to go across all of them.
Well, who designed? Is this a basic design of a concept pond, or what? Or did you design it, or?
Well, Alice and I went to California to some folks out there that are pretty well recognized Tritronics trainers called Jim and Phyllis Dobbs. Wrote a book called Tritronics Retriever Training, and when we saw Jim and Phyllis's concept pond while we were out there for a remote electronic collar training clinic, we fell in love with their ponds and asked Jim if he would design or lay them out for us. So Jim did design these ponds. Jim's a professional trainer, has been training for many, many years, traveling all over the country now, putting on retriever training seminars for electronic collar training.
Electronic collar training?
Well, it's an extended leash out to a quarter of a mile where we can't physically have a lead on a dog to make a correction. We now do that electronically.
Well, I mean, are you talking about electrically or electronically? I mean, is this giving them a zap?
There is an electrical stimulation involved. However, each dog has a level at which they will work comfortably. We need to find that level before we ever start training our retrievers. And with our electronic collars, we have 15 different levels of stimulation available to us. And we work until we find the level at which the dog will perform and will learn without being hurt. And that's the way we use the electrical stimulation to our advantage.
So what happens when a dog is way out there and you give it the stimulation, as you call it? What does it do? Does it look back at you then?
Well, that depends what you're doing. In some cases, if you blow a sit whistle and the dog doesn't stop and they're electrically stimulated, they're reminded, oh, I should have stopped. The advantage of electrical training is that it's instant. Now, just in that situation we just talked about, if a dog is 100 yards away from you and you blow a sit whistle and it doesn't, you used to have to run out there, catch the dog as quick as you can and correct it out there. Now you've had maybe a minute and a half has gone by. The dog really can't relate. What am I being shook up for? Why am I being corrected? It's the timing is not as precise as with an electrical stimulation. If you blow a sit whistle and the dog doesn't sit, instantly they're stimulated to boom. Oh yes, I remember now, I should have sat. And so the corrections are much more meaningful electrically than they were manually.
Do they wear these electronic collars not in the water?
Everywhere. Oh yeah, they're
do?
waterproof, 100% waterproof. Oh yeah.
So it's not like the old hairdryer in the shower?
No. They work in the water, out of the water, anywhere the dog is. Up to a mile away. We aren't training in that sort of distances because hunters don't have to deal with dogs at that distance.
Well, when did you get into this? I mean, I don't remember these collars being a part of your training a few years ago.
Well, we were in California at least 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So for that length of time, we've been involved with electrical collar training.
What got you into it?
The demand being put on us now by handlers to make, or owners to make more progress quicker. You can train a lot faster than you used to be able to manually. If you have to run out there and correct the dog, it takes a lot longer than it does to instantly stimulate and be back on track with your training process.
Well, you'll see the Steiners and a lot of other dog training demonstrations at the fair with Puppy Alley and all that. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, if you want to get out fishing this weekend, let's take a look at last weekend as an example. This is basically last weekend's report that Matt Radzilowski got from our guide report sources. Paul up in Houghton says they're getting walleye limits in the Sturgeon River, some pair pike fishing. Walleye and pike have been good in the Ontonagon River on the west end of the UP. We still have problems with mayflies and those darn alewives here in Badenoch, Gladstone, but they're getting some limits of large or smallmouth bass and decent perch. Lake trout limits in the Marquette area, smallmouth bass limits as well over in Muskong. They're getting some good pike fishing right now. And perch, decent size, great size perch actually, foot long, can't beat that. Walleye have been slow because of the mayflies. Indian River, been getting some splake and mullet lake, a few smallmouth bass. Rockport is producing limit catches of walleye, perch, and the kings have been good. Big king salmon off the wreck. Oscoda, well, you have a potpourri here. Sheep's head, salmon, steelhead, lake trout, walleye have all been good. Down in Linwood, Saginaw Bay, Ernie at Frank's says been getting some limits of walleye and perch, 8 to 11 inches on minnows. Port Sanilac, fair salmon fishing, limits of walleye, and sheep's head have been good. Lake St. Clair, they've been getting this walleye and muskie out in the dumping grounds. Trenton Lighthouse, Frank says smallmouth bass and walleye limits in the Detroit River, pike and muskie have been good. Over here in the southwest, Saugatuck, that's been a little slow for salmon and trout for best chance. I've been getting walleye and perch limits in Lake Michigan. Whitehall, panfish, largemouth bass, pike have been good. Salmon and trout have been slow in the big lake. Ludington, they've been getting a few salmon, and bass and skamania have been in as well. Cadillac, getting limits of crappie, the east end of Lake Cadillac. And in Traverse area, well, actually Manistee, they report on some limits of Manistee and lake trout in the bays. If you are a trout fisherman, check out the fly hatch report here from Baldwin Bait and Tackle for the Pere Marquette River. The hex hatch is winding down. There are a number of smaller flies that are hatching. They're using grasshoppers right now. The streams are low, clear, and in the upper 60s. Next week, I will have more information on people who will be at the Outdoor Fair on the 17th and 18th, including Jim Switalski, the president of the Michigan Hunting and Fishing License Collectors Club. You'll hear from knife maker Jason Stewart. I'll give you information on the chili cook-off. Saturday will be the competition among the deer camps at the fair. Sunday, the public is invited to enter the contest. Now, by the way, the next issue of the Practical Sportsman Digest is already at the printer, believe it or not. It should be going in the mail next week. Now, there is no Puppy Saturday this weekend at the museum. It's 4th of July weekend. Puppy Alley this month will be at the Outdoor Fair. So enjoy the weather, have a safe weekend, get outdoors. It's a great place to be, and I'll see you right here next week. Just like the national outdoor magazines have changed, our magazine has been challenged by an evolving outdoor market. After some changes in the past year, we're settling into a format that focuses on the Practical Sportsman TV show with information about some of our popular TV features, as well as news and commentary and outdoor collectibles. We'll also have details on how you can become an individual Practical Sportsman sponsor and get special benefits and inside information about the show. Now, if you want to read a transcript of tonight's program, including transcripts of Matt's Guide Report telephone interviews, you can download a transcript free from our website If you want a VHS copy of this program made from the broadcast master tape, we'll send you one for $14.97 plus shipping and handling. That's $19 total. Check our website, call us during business hours, or write to me at Box 1001, Bath, Michigan 48808. I'll send you a copy of the new issue of the Practical Sportsman Digest to update you on where we're heading and why.
Will kill you, you know, the wrong time of the year, you know. So it just doesn't matter. You just got to respect them certain times.
So which tines were they?
It was these right here. Yeah.
These two.
Because he had his head right against my leg here, and them tines sticking through, and I was trying to talk to him, you know, and his head was right there, and and I'm curled up, and I couldn't get on my feet because he had me stuck, you know.
Wow.
They said, why? Everybody said, why didn't you grab a hold of him? Jeez, when you got something going nuts on you, and you don't even get off the ground, there's no way you can.
How much did he weigh at the time?
He was about, I'd say he was 275, 280.
So he had 80 pounds on you?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's the story of Reese, the tame buck. These antlers just about
Killed me.
bought the farm for Bill Yoder. And here he is, what, 7, 8 months later, as if nothing happened.
Just like a kitten.
The lesson is, though, don't trust wild animals.
Don't trust them. Even in the wild, you get one, you know, that getting cornered or something's wrong, you got to watch it.
I guess. Well, I'm glad you're with us.
So am I.
And sharing the deer and the deer stories with
They wouldn't
people.
let me go because I owe too much money at the bank, so they kept me alive.
Well, I guess I'm going to live forever.
Yeah.